We have had a slight transformation on the set, and you'll see the reason why, or you'll meet the reason why in just a moment. In 1920, a furniture business was established, and it became known as Ercol Furniture. We have the granddaughter of that gentleman with us today, who's the Public Relations Officer for Ercol Furniture, known right throughout the world, and I'd like you to meet Lucia Ercolani. Thank you for coming along today, Lucia, and welcome to Perth. Actually, welcome to Australia, obviously.
Thank you very much.
Ercol Furniture, most people know and respect it for what it is, being a very old established company and a family business that's been going for a long time. Now, furniture, of course, designs change annually virtually, don't they? But Ercol Furniture seem to have retained a distinctive style. Any reason for that?
Well, yes, indeed. My grandfather's ideas were always to design something, a piece of furniture that could go right across the market for anybody to buy. And he was determined to keep in a theme, a design theme that was immediately recognizable. Of course, he worked in solid timbers, and this is rarely done with many other manufacturers.
Obviously, you were telling us you have Italian heritage, but your family have been living in England since the 20s, is that right?
Yes, indeed. Well, in fact, it's quite an interesting story. My grandfather came over in about 1888. He came over with his family. In fact, I believe it was a toss-up with a coin, whether it should be New York or London. And my great-grandfather, who was a picture frame maker for the Uffizi Museum in Florence, decided that London had more of a design theme feeling. And so London was the place that they came. Salvation Army brought them over. And this is where everything started.
Well, it's been going ever since, and beautifully too. We must talk about the woods that you use, because you were saying that elm is a very distinctive wood that has been used by the family, simply because other people have had difficulty in retaining the moisture in the wood, otherwise it would buckle. Now, what did you refer to it as?
Well, basically, my grandfather chose elm, obviously, because the graining is superb. It's beautiful wild grain. It's also a traditional English timber. And, of course, where our factory is in High Wycombe, it is traditionally the Windsor range. This is where it comes from.
I see.
And the old bodgers in the forest used to use elm and beech for the chairs. And, of course, another great thing was the fact that because elm really could distort, unbelievably, and bend, one had to be absolutely right and correct in your kilning process. What I think is interesting is the fact that unlike many other manufacturers who buy their timber from merchants, we have our own buying team. They go into the forests and woodlands every day, buy the tree standing, they fell it in the forests, and then it's taken to our timber yards where it's left outside for between 1 and 2 years.
That long? It's
That
like
long.
good wine maturing.
Yes, it is.
It?
There, of course, it's going through a drying process, a natural drying process, and then we bring it down to High Wycombe, to our kilns, where, of course, the correct moisture content is left in, 10.7, I think it is exactly.
The styling of your furniture, too, it's a classic look, I would say. The furniture, the table in front of us, not only is a very modern and a very practical piece, but, of course, you've made allowances for things like you don't see in centre tables anymore. You've got a drawer in the front and room for things to be stored underneath, and it makes it functional, doesn't it?
It certainly does. I think it's a marvellous little table. It's beautifully sculptured and made, of course, from solid elm. What I think is very nice about it, in this day and age where a lot of rooms are very small in flats and houses, this is a marvellous little centrepiece. You can put knickknacks in it, magazines, and I think it makes a very attractive piece in the middle of the room.
It does. Well, people tend to clutter around instead of being scattered all over the room, don't they?
Yes.
In corners and things.
I think what is very nice about it as well is the fact that you realise that this elm tree took about 120, 150 years to grow before we could cut it down. So there's real history written into the graining.
Well,
really.
there certainly is. What about other woods that are used by the company?
Well, we use 3 timbers. Elm, of course, is our famous one. Beech for our frames here.
Oh, yes.
And all the frames and legs.
Yes.
And Scots pine. We make 4 ranges. This, of course, is the old colonial. We have the Windsor range, which is made from beech and elm. Pine line range, obviously Scots pine, which is a lovely rose and golden honey tone. And the soft touch upholstery, which is a fully upholstered suites.
So you're using English timbers only, obviously, aren't you?
Homegrown timbers, nearly 100%. So one could say we're virtually 100% export.
Yes, you are. You're represented all around the world, aren't you, with your furniture? In fact, I must show a couple of the pieces that we don't have. We couldn't fit them in here for obvious reasons, but have a look at these, the workmanship that goes into this. Tell me, handcrafted workmanship, of course, is something virtually by and by these days, but are there any pieces that do require a lot more attention than perhaps the
Well,
normal?
yes, indeed. I think the interesting fact about our company is the partnership that we have between advanced technology with the machinery and, of course, the craft skill that we have with our craftsmen. I think I ought to add that it takes nearly 5 years to train a craftsman for ercol. And you can imagine the young apprentices, have to take some period, to train.
Yes, I would imagine
We've
so.
had
Be a definite skill in something like that.
Extremely, and we have a marvellous recruiting scheme for young apprentices. We have about 100 with us at the moment, but of course it takes 5 years to train them.
Yes,
Of course, unlike many manufacturers who can probably retrain somebody between 48 hours and a week, we have 5 years. You can imagine
Yes,
how long
that's
it
right.
really takes.
Well, these ranges are available in Perth at the moment. As a matter of fact, at Hearns, David Jones and Meyer, if anybody would like to go and have a look at them. Really is very beautiful indeed.
Thank
Incidentally, the colourings, do you have lots of flamboyant colourings? It doesn't look as though you do.
No, we of course work in natural woods, and because it's solid timber that we use, we like to use the natural colours. But of course in the Ercolani we have an antique staining on this and
Yes.
polish, and
You stay
more
with
of a
the earthy
traditional.
colours. Yes, I think it's really beautiful, and thank you very much, and all the very best for the rest of your tour.
Thank you very much
Very nice
indeed.
to meet you. Lucia Ercolani on the programme. Be back in just a moment, everybody.